The dust-laden wind carried a secret as it swept through the narrow streets of Las Animas, Colorado, in the summer of 1875. Olivia Jensen's heart pounded against her ribs like a frantic bird in a cage as she darted between buildings, her tattered dress catching on a loose nail and tearing further. Behind her, she could hear the shouts of men who would drag her back to a life worse than death if they caught her. She had been running for 3 days now, sleeping in abandoned barns and stealing food when desperation overcame caution. The welts on her back from her last beating had barely begun to heal, and the iron manacle around her ankle had left a ring of raw flesh, despite her having managed to break the chain. Freedom tasted sweet but terrifying on her tongue as she pressed herself against the rough wooden wall of the general store, trying to catch her breath. Across the street, the town's saloon doors swung open and a tall man stepped out, adjusting his hat against the sun. Adam Keller surveyed the quiet Main Street with the relaxed vigilance of someone who had learned to read trouble in the air. At 30 years old, he had established himself as one of the most respected ranchers in the territory, but the six-shooter at his hip and the scar across his jawline spoke of harder days before he'd claimed his piece of Colorado soil. Olivia saw him at the same moment he spotted her. Their eyes locked across the dusty expanse, and something in her desperate gaze must have called to him, because he froze for a fraction of a second before casually strolling in her direction. She shrank back, unsure if he was another threat, but there was nowhere left to run. "Madam," he said quietly as he approached, tipping his hat, "you look like you could use some help." Before she could respond, the sound of hoofbeats thundered at the edge of town. 5 riders, dust billowing behind them, were headed straight for the main street. Panic exploded in Olivia's chest. "I've escaped from Servitude," she whispered urgently, her voice cracking with fear. "They'll find me." The words tumbled out before she could stop them, her eyes wide with terror as she glanced toward the approaching men. Adam's gaze hardened as he took in her appearance, the bruises visible on her wrists, the torn dress, the makeshift bandage around her ankle where the manacle had cut deep. Without hesitation, he grasped her elbow. "Come with me," he said, his voice low and steady. "Now." He guided her swiftly behind the general store to where his horse was hitched. In one fluid motion, he lifted her onto the saddle, then mounted behind her. Olivia gasped at the sudden proximity to this stranger, but the approaching riders left her no choice but to trust him. "Keep your head down," he instructed as he urged his horse forward at a leisurely pace toward the livery stable at the other end of town. "Don't look back." Olivia buried her face against his shoulder, inhaling the scent of leather, tobacco, and open prairie. The thundering in her chest almost drowned out the sounds of the riders entering the town, but she could still hear their harsh voices as they began questioning people in the street. Adam steered his horse into the livery, nodding casually to the stable hand. "Just going to check on that new mare, Pete," he said, his voice betraying none of the tension Olivia could feel in his body. Once inside, he quickly dismounted and helped her down. "There's a tack room in the back," he whispered, guiding her through the dim building. "Stay there and don't make a sound, no matter what happens. Understand?" Olivia nodded, her throat too dry for words. The tack room was small and dusty, filled with saddles and bridles hanging from pegs on the walls. Adam closed the door behind her, leaving her in near darkness, with only thin streaks of light filtering through the wooden slats. She pressed her ear to the door, listening as Adam's boots crunched on the hay-strewn floor of the livery, moving away from her hiding place. Minutes stretched like hours as she waited, every muscle tense, her breathing shallow. Then came the voices. "Keller," a gruff male voice said. "Thought I saw you ride in here. You seen a young woman about 20, dark hair, Run away from my property down south." "Can't say that I have," Adam replied, his voice steady. "What's she done?" "Theft," the man replied quickly. "Stole money and valuables, but she's mine, legally indentured to pay her father's debts. Got the papers right here." There was a rustling of documents, and Olivia bit her lip to keep from crying out. The lies cut deep, but not as deep as the truth of what she'd endured at the hands of Edmund Blackwell, a man who had purchased her indenture contract after her father's death 3 years ago. What had begun as legitimate service had become imprisonment, and worse, in the isolated plantation near the Texas border. "Looks official enough," Adam said after a pause. "I'll keep an eye out. Where are you staying if I see her?" "The hotel. Name's Blackwell. Edmund Blackwell. There's a reward for her return, $50. She's a valuable servant despite her rebellious nature." "That's generous," Adam replied. "I'll spread the word." Footsteps retreated, and Olivia held her breath until she heard the livery door close. Still, she remained frozen in place, afraid to move. Minutes passed before the door to her hiding place opened, and Adam stood there, his expression grim. "Those men are trouble," he said quietly. "And those papers he showed me, they may look legal, but no legitimate indenture involves shackles and beatings." Olivia's eyes widened. "How did you know about the shackles?" "I saw the mark on your ankle," he said simply. "And I've seen enough abuse in my time to recognize the signs." He hesitated before continuing. "I've got a ranch about 10 miles outside town. You'd be safe there while we figure out what to do next." "Why would you help me?" she asked, suspicion warring with desperate hope. "You don't know me." Adam's weathered face softened slightly. "My mother was indentured when she came to this country. Her employer treated her like property. A good man helped her escape." He shrugged. "I'm just passing on the favor." Olivia searched his face, looking for deceit but finding only honest determination. She had few options and fewer allies. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet," Adam warned. "Helping a runaway servant, legitimate or not, can be trouble with the law, but I've never been one to turn away from trouble when it's the right thing to do." He glanced out the small window of the tack room. "They're still in town, asking questions. We'll have to wait until dark to leave." As the sun began its descent behind the mountains, Adam made arrangements with Pete, the stable hand, a grizzled old man who asked no questions when Adam pressed a silver dollar into his palm and mentioned needing discretion. Pete merely nodded, his rheumy eyes flickering briefly to the tack room before he shuffled away to attend to the evening feeding. Olivia remained hidden, curled against a saddle, her mind racing through possible outcomes, most of them ending with her return to Blackwell's plantation. When Adam finally returned, he carried a bundle of clothing. "These belonged to Pete's daughter before she married and moved to Denver," he explained, handing her the simple cotton dress and shawl. "They'll help you blend in better than that." He gestured to her tattered servant's dress. "I'll wait outside while you change." When she emerged, the clean dress hanging a bit loose on her frame, Adam nodded approvingly. "Good. Now we'll ride out the back way. Stay close and follow my lead." He led his horse through the rear door of the livery into the growing dusk. Olivia walked beside him, keeping to the shadows as they made their way to the edge of town. Only when the lights of Las Animas were dim behind them did Adam help her onto his horse and mount behind her, setting off at a steady trot across the open prairie. The night air was cool against Olivia's face as they rode, the vast expanse of stars overhead more beautiful than any she had seen in years. Freedom, even temporary freedom, felt overwhelming after so long in captivity. She found herself relaxing slightly against Adam's solid presence, her exhaustion finally catching up with her. "How long were you with Blackwell?" Adam asked after they had ridden in silence for some time. 3 years, she replied, her voice barely audible above the sound of the horse's hooves. My father died owing him money for failed crops. The contract was supposed to be for 5 years of household service to clear the debt. But after a year, when I resisted his advances, he started treating me like a slave instead of a servant. Kept me locked in an outbuilding, made me work from dawn until midnight, beat me if I didn't meet his demands. Adam's arm tightened almost imperceptibly around her waist. And no one intervened. Olivia gave a bitter laugh. His plantation is isolated and he's a powerful man in those parts. The local sheriff takes his bribes and looks the other way. I tried to escape twice before. The first time he broke my fingers one by one when they caught me. The second time, she trailed off, unwilling to revisit those memories. This time you got farther, Adam observed. This time I had help, she admitted. One of the kitchen girls, she smuggled me a file for the chain and left food by the fence. I don't know what happened to her after I left. The thought brought fresh worry. He might have punished her for helping me. We'll figure that out later, Adam promised. First, we need to get you somewhere safe. As they crested a small rise, Olivia saw the outline of a ranch house nestled in a protected valley, with several outbuildings clustered nearby. A dog began barking as they approached, and lights appeared in the windows of the house. That's Buster, Adam said as the barking grew louder. Best cattle dog in the territory and too smart for his own good. He'll alert the house. Sure enough, by the time they reached the main yard, the front door had opened, and a woman stood silhouetted against the lamplight. Adam, that you coming in so late? The woman's voice carried across the yard, concern evident in her tone. It's me, Martha, he called back. And we have a guest who will be staying with us for a while. Martha Wilkins had been Adam's housekeeper since he'd established the ranch 5 years earlier. A widow in her 50s with steel gray hair and capable hands, she ran the household with quiet efficiency. She took one look at Olivia's exhausted face and bruised wrists as Adam helped her dismount and immediately took charge. You poor child, she murmured, ushering Olivia toward the house. Let's get you inside and fed. You look about ready to drop. Adam handed the reins of his horse to a young man who had appeared from the direction of the bunkhouse. Take care of Russet for me, would you, Tommy? I'll be in shortly. As Martha guided Olivia into the warmth of the kitchen, Adam watched them go, his expression thoughtful. He'd acted on instinct in town, seeing a woman in need and responding without hesitation. Now, with Blackwell and his men searching, he would need to think carefully about their next steps. Harboring a runaway servant, even one who had clearly been abused, could bring legal troubles. And Adam had responsibilities to his ranch, and the people who depended on him. Yet something about Olivia's courage in the face of such adversity had stirred him. He'd recognized the determination in her eyes, the same stubborn will to survive that had gotten him through his own hardest times. That, more than anything, had prompted his decision to help her. With a sigh, he turned toward the barn. First, he would make sure the ranch was secure for the night. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Inside the kitchen, Martha sat Olivia at the sturdy wooden table and placed a bowl of stew and a chunk of fresh bread before her. Eat, she instructed. Then we'll see about getting you a proper bath and a place to sleep. Olivia ate slowly, savoring each bite of the hearty stew. It had been days since she'd had a proper meal, and years since she'd been treated with such simple kindness. Martha bustled around the kitchen, asking no questions but occasionally glancing at Olivia with knowing eyes. Martha, Adam said as he entered the kitchen, removing his hat and hanging it on a peg by the door. Miss Jensen will be staying with us for a time. There are some men looking for her in town, men who mean her harm. I'd appreciate your discretion. Martha nodded, her lips pressing into a thin line. I understand, Adam. It wouldn't be the first time this house has sheltered someone in need. She turned to Olivia. Finish your supper, dear. I'll prepare the east bedroom for you. When Martha had left the room, Adam sat across from Olivia, his expression serious. You'll be safe here tonight, but we need to consider our next steps. Blackwell seems determined to find you, and he has those papers giving him legal claim to your service. Those papers should have been voided the moment he violated the terms of the indenture, Olivia said, her voice stronger than it had been earlier. An indentured servant is not a slave to be beaten, and she swallowed hard. What he did was illegal. I agree, Adam said. But proving that might be difficult. Do you have family anywhere? Someone who could take you in, somewhere far from here? Olivia shook her head. My mother died when I was a child. My father was my only family. There was an aunt in Boston once, but I haven't heard from her in years and wouldn't know how to find her. Adam rubbed his jaw thoughtfully. I know a judge in Denver who's fair-minded. He might be willing to review your case if we can get evidence of Blackwell's mistreatment. But that would mean standing against Blackwell in court. The thought made Olivia's stomach clench with fear, but she lifted her chin. If that's what it takes to truly be free, I'll do it. Adam's eyes softened as he looked at her. You're brave, Miss Jensen. Olivia, she corrected him. And I'm not brave, just desperate. Sometimes they're the same thing, he replied with a slight smile. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow we'll start making plans. Martha returned and led Olivia to a small but comfortable bedroom at the east end of the house. A copper tub had been placed near the hearth, steam rising from the water. Take your time, Martha said kindly. There's a nightgown on the bed and clean clothes for tomorrow. Adam's sister left them last time she visited. They should fit well enough. Left alone, Olivia sank into the warm bath, allowing herself to truly relax for the first time in days. As she washed away the dust and fear of her journey, she thought about Adam Keller. His kindness seemed genuine, but experience had taught her to be wary of men's motivations. Still, she had few options, and something in his steady gaze had earned her tentative trust. She had nearly drifted off to sleep in the cooling water when a knock at the door startled her. Miss Jensen, Martha called softly. I've brought some salve for those wounds on your back and ankle. Olivia quickly donned the nightgown and opened the door. Martha entered with a small jar in her hands, her eyes assessing the visible bruises on Olivia's arms. Sit, she instructed, pointing to the edge of the bed. With gentle fingers, she applied the herbal-smelling salve to Olivia's wounds. These will heal better now. You're young and strong. Thank you, Olivia murmured. You and Mr. Keller have been very kind. Martha's weathered face softened. Adam has a good heart, always has, even through the hard times. Lost his parents young, raised his sister mostly on his own, built this place from nothing. She secured a clean bandage around Olivia's ankle. He doesn't talk about it much, but he knows what it means to fight your way free of something. Curiosity sparked in Olivia, but before she could ask more, Martha stood. Get some sleep, child. Morning comes early on a ranch. Sleep came quickly, deeper than any Olivia had known in years, with no fear of being awakened for endless chores or worse. When morning light filtered through the curtains, she woke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was until the events of the previous day came flooding back. She dressed in the borrowed clothes, a simple blue calico dress that was indeed a good fit, and made her way to the kitchen, following the aroma of coffee and bacon. Adam was already at the table, discussing the day's work with a weathered man Olivia hadn't met. This is Frank Sullivan, my foreman, Adam said as she entered. "Frank, this is Miss Olivia Jensen. She'll be staying with us for a while." Frank, a man in his 40s with sun-creased eyes, nodded respectfully. "Miss Jensen." He turned back to Adam. "So we'll move the herd to the north pasture today, then?" "Yes, and check the fence line while you're up there. Take Tommy and Lucas with you." Adam sipped his coffee as Frank rose from the table. "Miss Jensen," Frank said with another nod before heading out the door. "Does he know?" Olivia asked quietly after Frank had gone. "About my situation. Only what he needs to that you're under my protection and there might be men looking for you." Adam gestured to the stove where Martha was cooking. Hungry. Breakfast was a simple but hearty affair of eggs, bacon, and biscuits. Olivia ate with appreciation, noting how different this morning meal was from the cold porridge that had been her standard fare at Blackwell's plantation. "I've been thinking," Adam said as they finished eating. "The safest place for you right now is here at the ranch. Blackwell and his men will be searching in town and along the main roads, but they're less likely to come this far out unless they have reason to suspect you're here." "I don't want to put you or your people at risk," Olivia said, concern furrowing her brow. "Everyone here can take care of themselves," Adam assured her, "and we look after our own." He hesitated before continuing. "I sent Tommy to town at first light with a letter for Judge Wilson in Denver. He's an old friend, and he'll advise us on the legal standing of your indenture contract. Until we hear back, it's best if you stay close to the house." Olivia nodded, grateful but restless at the thought of being confined again, even in such comfortable surroundings. As if reading her thoughts, Martha spoke up from where she was kneading dough at the counter. "I could use some help with the garden today if you're willing. It's behind the house, not visible from the road." "I'd like that," Olivia said quickly. After years of harsh labor, the thought of working in a garden by choice at her own pace felt almost like luxury. Adam rose from the table. "I need to check on the herd in the south pasture. I'll be back by midday." He paused, his eyes meeting Olivia's. "If there's any sign of trouble, any rider approaching that isn't one of our men, Martha knows what to do." After he left, Olivia helped Martha clear the breakfast dishes, then followed her out to the garden. The morning sun was warm but not yet hot as they knelt among the rows of vegetables, pulling weeds and checking the growth of young plants. "How long have you worked for Mr. Keller?" Olivia asked as they worked side by side. "Going on 6 years now," Martha replied. "Came here after my Henry passed. Adam was just starting the ranch, then had the main house built but not much else. Needed someone to cook for the hands and keep things in order." She smiled at the memory. "He was so determined, that young man. Had all these plans drawn up, knew exactly what he wanted to build. He seems very capable," Olivia observed, carefully extracting a weed from beside a tomato plant. Martha chuckled. "That he is. Stubborn as a mule, too, once he sets his mind to something." She glanced at Olivia with shrewd eyes, like helping a young woman in trouble even when it might bring complications. Olivia's cheeks warmed. "I didn't ask him to help me, he just did." "That's Adam," Martha said simply. "He sees what needs doing and does it. Been that way since he was a boy, his sister tells me." They worked in companionable silence for a time, the physical labor soothing in its simplicity. Olivia found herself relaxing into the rhythm of the task, her mind clearing of fears for the first time in days. The peace was shattered by the distant sound of hoofbeats approaching the ranch. Martha straightened instantly, her expression alert. "Inside," she said quietly but firmly, already moving toward the back door of the house. "Quickly now." Olivia followed, her heart racing. Through the kitchen window, she could see dust rising from the road that led to the main yard. Martha guided her swiftly to a door hidden in the pantry. "Root cellar," she explained, opening it to reveal narrow stairs descending into darkness. Stay there until I come for you. There's a lamp and matches on the shelf to your right. The cellar was cool and smelled of earth and stored vegetables. Olivia found the lamp and lit it, its glow revealing a small space lined with shelves of preserved foods and root vegetables. She sat on a wooden crate, straining to hear what was happening above. Muffled voices reached her, Martha's and then a man's, unfamiliar and demanding. The conversation seemed to go on for some time, the man's voice growing increasingly insistent. Olivia's palms were slick with sweat as she imagined Blackwell or his men searching the house, discovering her hiding place. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, the cellar door opened, and Martha appeared. "It's safe now," she said, her expression grim. "They've gone." "Who was it?" Olivia asked, climbing the stairs on shaky legs. "Two of Blackwell's men," Martha confirmed. "Said they were looking for a runaway servant, asked if we'd seen a young woman matching your description." She sniffed disapprovingly. "I told them I hadn't seen hide nor hair of anyone like that, and that they were trespassing on private property." "Did they believe you?" Martha's lips thinned. "They searched the barn and bunkhouse anyway, until Frank and the boys came in from the north field. Then they thought better of pushing further." She patted Olivia's arm. "Don't you worry. They're gone now, heading east, but they'll be back, I expect. Men like that don't give up easily." "I should leave," Olivia said, panic rising in her throat. "I'm putting all of you in danger." "Nonsense," Martha replied firmly. "Adam decided to help you, and that's that. We stand by his decisions." She guided Olivia to a chair. "Sit. I'll make us some tea and then we'll finish with the garden. No sense letting good growing time go to waste because of a couple of bullies." By the time Adam returned at midday, Olivia had regained her composure, though the knowledge that Blackwell's men were searching so diligently left her deeply unsettled. Adam listened gravely as Martha recounted the morning's visitors. "They're casting a wide net," he observed. "Which means they don't have a specific lead on where you went." He turned to Olivia. "That's good, but it also means they're determined to find you." "I heard them talking," Martha added. "Seems Blackwell has offered $100 now for information leading to her return, double what he was saying in town yesterday." Adam's eyebrows rose. $100 is a lot for a servant. Makes me think there's more to his pursuit than just the value of your labor." Olivia looked away, her hands twisting in her lap. "There is," she admitted quietly. "Before I left, I took something from him, something valuable." "What was it?" Adam asked, his voice carefully neutral. Olivia reached into the pocket of her borrowed dress and withdrew a small leather pouch. From it, she removed a folded document. "My indenture contract," she explained. "The original. He kept it locked in his desk, but the night I escaped, I broke into his office and took it. Without this, he has no legal proof of his claim on me." Adam unfolded the document, his eyes scanning the formal language. "This is dated 3 years ago," he noted, "and it specifies a 5-year term of service to clear a debt of $300. He looked up at her. "This seems straightforward enough." "Turn it over," Olivia said softly. Adam flipped the document. On the back, in a different hand, was a series of notations, dates, and brief descriptions. "What are these?" "His record of my infractions and the penalties he imposed," Olivia explained, her voice steady despite the pain the words brought. "Each time he extended my indenture for supposed misbehavior. According to his calculations, my 5 years became 10, then 15. She pointed to the bottom notation. "By the time I left, he claimed I owed him 23 years of service." Adam's expression darkened as he read the entries. "These are illegal. An indenture contract can't be unilaterally extended like this, especially not for trivial matters." He looked up at her. This is important evidence, Olivia. It proves he was abusing the system. Will it be enough? She asked, hope warring with doubt in her voice. With Judge Wilson reviewing it, I believe so, Adam replied. He's a fair man who believes in the law, not in twisting it to exploit people. He carefully refolded the document and handed it back to her. Keep this safe. When Tommy returns with word from the judge, we'll know better how to proceed. The next few days settled into an uneasy routine. Olivia remained close to the house, helping Martha with household tasks and learning the rhythms of ranch life. Adam continued his work with the cattle and land, but always returned to the house several times throughout the day, as if checking that she was still safe. Each evening they would sit in the parlor after dinner, sometimes talking, sometimes just enjoying the quiet companionship. Olivia found herself watching Adam when he wasn't aware, the confident way he moved, the gentleness in his hands when he worked with the animals, the quiet authority he commanded without raising his voice. He was unlike any man she had known before, and she felt drawn to him in ways that both comforted and confused her. On the fourth day, Tommy returned from Denver with a sealed letter from Judge Wilson. Adam read it in his study, then called Olivia in to discuss its contents. The judge is concerned about your situation, he explained, gesturing for her to take a seat across from his desk. He says that based on the description of your treatment and the illegal extension of your contract, you have grounds to petition for its dissolution. Hope bloomed in Olivia's chest. So I could be legally free? Yes, Adam confirmed. But there's a catch. You would need to appear before him in Denver to give testimony, and until he rules on your case, Blackwell still technically has a legal claim to your service. The hope dimmed somewhat. So if I'm caught on the way to Denver, Blackwell could legally reclaim you, Adam finished, unless we can prove immediate mistreatment, which would be difficult without witnesses. Olivia's mind raced. The kitchen girl who helped me marry, she would testify if she could. And there were others at the plantation who saw how he treated me. That's something to consider, Adam said thoughtfully, but getting witnesses from Blackwell's plantation would be difficult and dangerous. He tapped the judge's letter. Wilson suggests that your best option might be to remain hidden until he can arrange for a more private hearing, perhaps even traveling to a town closer to us. How long would that take? A few weeks, most likely. He needs to arrange his circuit schedule. Adam's eyes met hers. Are you willing to stay here that long? The question carried weight beyond its simple words. Olivia considered what it meant: weeks of living under Adam's protection, of being in his home, of growing more familiar with him each day. The thought stirred feelings she had tried to keep buried since her arrival. If you're willing to have me, she replied carefully. I am, he said, his voice softening. You're safe here, Olivia and I. He paused, seeming to search for the right words. I've come to enjoy your company. The simple admission sent warmth spreading through her chest. And I yours, she replied softly. Their shared gaze held for a long moment before Adam cleared his throat. Then it's settled. I'll write back to the judge accepting his proposal. In the meantime, you should continue to stay close to the ranch house. Blackwell's men have been seen in the area several times now. As the days turned into weeks, Olivia found herself becoming more integrated into the life of the ranch. She worked alongside Martha in the house, learned to tend the kitchen garden more effectively, and even began helping with some of the accounts and correspondence that Adam had little patience for. The nightmares that had plagued her sleep gradually became less frequent, though she still woke occasionally with her heart racing, convinced she was back in the dark outbuilding on Blackwell's plantation. Adam, too, seemed to be changing. The reserved rancher who had first taken her in had gradually revealed more of himself, his dry sense of humor. his passion for the land, his deep sense of responsibility for those who depended on him. In the evenings, he would sometimes read aloud from one of his books while Olivia mended clothing or helped Martha with needlework. Those quiet moments, with the lamplight casting a warm glow over the parlor and Adam's deep voice bringing words to life, became precious to her. It was during one such evening, with Martha having retired early with a headache, that Adam set aside his book and looked directly at Olivia. "You seem more at peace now," he observed. "Less like you're ready to run at any moment." Olivia smiled, setting down her needlework. "I feel safer here than I have in years, and useful, which matters more than I realized. You've been a help," he acknowledged. "Martha says you have a good head for numbers from the way you've organized the household accounts." "My father insisted I learn," she explained. "He said a woman should always be able to manage her own affairs, not depend on a man to do it for her. He sounds like a wise man." "He was," Olivia said softly, memories of her father bringing both warmth and sorrow. "He would have liked you, I think." "He valued honesty and hard work above all else." Adam's smile was gentle. "High praise." He hesitated before continuing. "Olivia, there's something I should tell you. I received another letter from Judge Wilson today." She straightened, instantly alert. "What did it say?" "He's arranged to come here, to Las Animas, in 2 weeks' time. He'll hold a private hearing at the home of a friend of his, a lawyer named Harrison. If your testimony and evidence are convincing, he can void your indenture contract on the spot." Joy surged through Olivia, but it was quickly tempered by reality. "Blackwell will know. If there's a hearing, he'll be notified." "Yes," Adam confirmed. "He'll have the right to present his side." "But with the original contract showing his illegal extensions, and your testimony about the conditions of your servitude, Wilson believes we have a strong case." "What happens if we win?" she asked, the possibility of true freedom still seeming somewhat abstract after so long. "You would be legally free," Adam said. "No longer bound by the indenture, free to go wherever you wish, do whatever you choose." The words hung in the air between them. Free to go wherever you wish. The thought should have been purely joyful, but Olivia found it strangely bittersweet. Freedom would mean choices, including whether to stay or leave the ranch, leave Adam. "And if we lose?" she asked quietly. Adam's jaw tightened. "We won't." "But if we did," she pressed, "would Blackwell be able to take me back immediately?" "No," Adam said firmly. "I wouldn't allow that, regardless of the legal ruling. If necessary, we'd appeal to a higher court, or—" He didn't finish the thought, but Olivia could see the determination in his eyes. He would protect her, even if it meant defying the law. The realization sent a rush of emotion through her, so strong that she had to look away, blinking rapidly to clear the sudden moisture from her eyes. When she had composed herself, she found Adam watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Thank you," she said simply, unable to fully express the depth of her gratitude and the other, more complicated feelings that had grown during her time at the ranch. "You don't need to thank me," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. He stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. "It's late. You should rest." The moment passed, but something had shifted between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of feelings that went beyond protector and protected. Olivia lay awake long into the night, thinking about Adam and the approaching hearing, about freedom and choices, about the possibility of a future she had never dared to imagine during her years of servitude. The next morning dawned clear and bright, the kind of perfect late summer day that made the world seem full of promise. Olivia was helping Martha hang laundry in the yard behind the house when they heard riders approaching, more than one, by the sound. Martha tensed, her hands stilling on the sheet she was pinning to the line. "Inside," she said quietly. "Quickly now." But before Olivia could move, Adam appeared from the direction of the barn, striding purposefully toward the front of the house to meet the visitors. Curiosity overcoming caution, Olivia moved to the corner of the house, where she could see the approaching riders without being easily spotted. Her blood froze in her veins. Edmund Blackwell himself sat atop a gleaming black horse, flanked by 4 armed men. Even at a distance, she would know him anywhere: the broad-shouldered frame, the carefully trimmed beard, the expensive clothes that marked him as a man of wealth and standing. He carried himself with the arrogant confidence of someone unused to being denied what he wanted. "Keller," Blackwell called as he reined in his horse in the yard. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Adam stood his ground, one hand resting casually near his holstered pistol. "I don't know what you're talking about, Blackwell. This is private property." Blackwell dismounted, his movements deliberate. He was a handsome man in his 40s, with the kind of charm that could mask the cruelty beneath, at least to those who didn't know him well. "Let's not play games," he said, his voice carrying clearly across the yard. "My servant, Olivia Jensen, was seen in your company in Las Animas nearly a month ago. Several witnesses place her riding out of town with you the same day my men arrived looking for her." He produced a folded paper from his coat. "I have a legal right to reclaim her. This is a warrant from Judge Parker, authorizing a search of your property." From her hiding place, Olivia could see Adam's jaw tighten, but his expression remained controlled. "Judge Parker is known for signing anything put in front of him if there's money attached," he said evenly. "But I respect the law. You're welcome to search the bunkhouse and barn. My men will cooperate." Blackwell's smile didn't reach his eyes. "And the house?" "The house is my private residence," Adam replied. "Unless that warrant specifically names it, and unless you have the sheriff with you to execute it properly, you'll stay out." "The sheriff is on his way," Blackwell said smoothly. "Had some business to attend to in town first, but he'll be along shortly." He handed the warrant to Adam. "You'll find it's quite comprehensive." As Adam examined the document, Martha appeared at Olivia's side, her expression urgent. "The root cellar," she whispered. "Now, and take this." She pressed a small revolver into Olivia's hand. "Only if you have no other choice," she added, seeing Olivia's startled expression. Heart pounding, Olivia slipped back to the kitchen and down into the root cellar, closing the door silently behind her. The small space seemed more confining than before, now that she knew Blackwell himself was above. She lit the lamp with trembling hands and sat on a crate, the revolver heavy in her lap. Time passed with excruciating slowness. She could hear muffled voices and footsteps above, the sound of doors opening and closing, men moving through the house. Then, terrifyingly, the cellar door opened. Olivia raised the revolver, her finger hovering near the trigger as she fought to control her breathing. Adam descended the stairs alone, holding a finger to his lips for silence. When he reached the bottom, he whispered, "They're searching the house now. Sheriff Denton is with them. He's no friend of mine, but he's insisting they follow proper procedure." He glanced at the gun in her hands. "Martha gave you that," Olivia nodded, lowering the weapon slightly. "I don't know if I could use it. Let's hope you won't have to." Adam's expression was grim. "The cellar isn't on the building plans and the entrance is hidden behind the pantry shelves, but if they're thorough—" "What do we do if they find me?" she asked, fear making her voice barely audible. Adam moved closer, placing his hands on her shoulders. "I won't let them take you," he said with quiet intensity. "No matter what happens." Their eyes met in the dim lamplight, and Olivia saw the determination in his gaze, along with something deeper that made her heart race for reasons beyond fear. On impulse, she reached up and touched his cheek. "Adam," she whispered, "if something happens—" I want you to know that these weeks here with you, they've meant everything to me." For a moment, he seemed frozen by her touch, his eyes darkening with emotion. Then, slowly, he covered her hand with his own, turning his face slightly to press a gentle kiss to her palm. "Olivia," he began, his voice rough with feeling. The sound of a door slamming above cut him off. Footsteps approached the pantry and voices grew louder. Adam straightened, his expression shifting back to alertness. "Stay here," he whispered. "No matter what you hear. I'll come for you when it's safe." He ascended the stairs swiftly, closing the door behind him. Olivia was left alone again, the brief moment of connection making her isolation feel all the more acute. She clutched the revolver, straining to hear what was happening above. The voices grew heated, Adam's controlled but firm. Another man's more officious, presumably the sheriff, and then Blackwell's, smooth and persuasive. Their words were indistinct, but the tone of the conversation made it clear that tensions were rising. Then came the sound of a scuffle, a crash, and a woman's cry, "Martha." Olivia stood, her heart hammering against her ribs. More shouting followed, and then, alarmingly, silence. Minutes stretched like hours. Olivia debated whether to venture up the stairs to see what had happened, weighing the risk of discovery against her fear for Adam and Martha's safety. Just as she decided to risk a look, the cellar door opened again. It wasn't Adam who appeared, but Martha, her face pale and her hands shaking slightly. "Come quickly," she whispered. "We need to get you out of here." "What happened?" Olivia asked as she hurried up the stairs. "Where's Adam?" "They're arresting him," Martha said grimly, leading Olivia through the kitchen toward the back door. "Blackwell's man claimed Adam struck him when they were searching the study. It's a lie, of course, but the sheriff's taking him in anyway." Horror washed over Olivia. "This is my fault. No time for that now," Martha cut her off. "They'll be back to search more thoroughly once Adam's gone. Frank's waiting by the creek with a horse for you. You need to ride to the Harrison place in town. Adam told me this morning that's where Judge Wilson will be staying when he arrives. Mrs. Harrison will hide you until then." "But Adam, he knew this might happen," Martha said, her voice softening slightly. "Said if it did, getting you to safety was the priority. Now go. Frank will show you the way." Gathering her courage, Olivia followed Martha's instructions, slipping out the back door and running toward the small creek that bordered the eastern edge of the ranch property. Frank waited there with a saddled horse, his weathered face grave. "Miss Jensen," he said with a nod, "we need to move quickly. Take the east trail through the cottonwoods. It'll keep you out of sight most of the way to town." "What will happen to Adam?" she asked, accepting his help to mount the horse. Frank's expression hardened. "Don't you worry about the boss. We'll handle that part. Sheriff can't hold him long on false charges, not with Judge Wilson coming to town." He handed her the reins. "Mrs. Harrison is expecting you. House with the blue door, north end of town." With a heavy heart but resolute determination, Olivia urged the horse forward, following Frank's directions along the sheltered creek trail. Behind her, she could hear shouting from the direction of the ranch house. Blackwell's men, no doubt discovering she wasn't where they expected her to be. As she rode toward Las Animas, Olivia's mind raced with worry for Adam and guilt over the trouble she had brought to his door. Yet beneath those emotions was a steely determination that surprised her with its strength. She would not let Blackwell win, not after coming so far, not after finding someone worth fighting for. The Harrison home proved to be a modest but well-kept house at the quieter end of town. Eleanor Harrison, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, ushered Olivia inside without hesitation. "Adam Keller sent word you might be coming," she explained, leading Olivia to a small bedroom at the back of the house. "My husband has been corresponding with Judge Wilson about your case." The judge should arrive tomorrow or the next day. Thank you for taking me in, Olivia said gratefully. But Adam has been arrested because of me. I need to help him. Mrs. Harrison's expression was sympathetic but practical. The best way to help him is to stay hidden until the judge arrives. If Blackwell finds you, Adam's sacrifice will have been for nothing. Reluctantly, Olivia acknowledged the truth in her words. For the next day and a half, she remained in the Harrison home, watching anxiously from behind curtained windows as Blackwell's men periodically rode through town, clearly searching for her. News came via Mr. Harrison that Adam remained in the town jail, charged with assaulting one of Blackwell's men and interfering with the recovery of legal property, meaning Olivia herself. When Judge Wilson finally arrived in Las Animas, he came directly to the Harrison home. A tall, distinguished man with silver hair and penetrating blue eyes, he listened carefully as Olivia recounted her story, examining the original indenture contract with its damning notations. "This is a clear case of abuse of the indenture system," he declared when she had finished. "Mr. Blackwell has violated both the letter and spirit of the law." He turned to Mr. Harrison. "Arrange for the hearing to take place tomorrow morning. I want Blackwell there, along with Sheriff Denton and Mr. Keller." "Blackwell won't give up easily," Olivia warned. "He's a powerful man used to getting his way." Judge Wilson's smile was cold. "So am I, Miss Jensen, and I have one advantage: he does not the actual law on my side, not just his twisted interpretation of it." The next morning, Olivia dressed in clothes Mrs. Harrison had provided a simple but respectable navy blue dress that made her look more like a schoolteacher than a runaway servant. Mr. Harrison escorted her to his office, where the hearing would take place, taking a circuitous route to avoid being spotted by Blackwell's men. The office was already occupied when they arrived. Judge Wilson sat behind Harrison's desk, while Sheriff Denton stood uncomfortably by the door. Edmund Blackwell sat in one chair, immaculately dressed and radiating confidence. And there was Adam, his face bearing a darkening bruise along one cheekbone but his posture unbowed as he sat across from his accuser. Adam's eyes found Olivia's immediately as she entered, relief visible in his expression. Blackwell turned, his gaze sharpening with triumph when he saw her. "There she is," he said smoothly, rising to his feet. "My runaway servant. I demand her immediate return to my custody." "Sit down, Mr. Blackwell," Judge Wilson said firmly. "This is a legal hearing, not a claim auction. Miss Jensen, please take a seat." Olivia sat beside Adam, drawing strength from his presence despite the tension in the room. Under the table, his hand found hers briefly, giving it a reassuring squeeze before returning to his lap. "This hearing will determine the validity of the indenture contract between Edmund Blackwell and Olivia Jensen," Judge Wilson announced formally. "Mr. Blackwell, you claim Miss Jensen is bound to your service for how long?" 23 years from the present date," Blackwell replied confidently. "The original term was 5 years, but extensions were added for various infractions and the cost of her maintenance." "I see. And do you have documentation of these extensions?" Blackwell produced a ledger. "Everything is recorded here, Your Honor. Each infraction, each extension, properly calculated according to the value of her labor lost." Judge Wilson examined the ledger, his expression unreadable. "Miss Jensen, do you dispute these extensions?" "I do, Your Honor," Olivia said, her voice steadier than she felt. "And I have evidence that Mr. Blackwell's treatment violated the terms of the original agreement." She presented her copy of the indenture contract with its notations. "This is the original contract, with Mr. Blackwell's own notations regarding the extensions he imposed." As the judge compared the two documents, Blackwell's confident expression began to falter. "Those are private business records," he protested. "She stole that document from my office." "It's her contract," Judge Wilson replied coolly. "She has every right to a copy, and these notes." He looked up, his gaze hard. "Extensions for impertinence, for slowness, for breaking a dish. 3 additional years of service for attempting to send a letter." "This is not how legal indenture works, Mr. Blackwell." "She was willfully disobedient," Blackwell insisted. "The contract allows for reasonable discipline. Discipline, perhaps, not arbitrary extension of the term." The judge turned to Olivia. "Miss Jensen, please describe the conditions of your service." Olivia straightened her shoulders and began to speak. She described the increasingly harsh conditions after her first year, the isolation, the physical abuse, the threats. She spoke of being locked in an outbuilding at night, of working from dawn until midnight, of being denied adequate food when Blackwell was displeased with her. As she spoke, the room grew very quiet, with only the sound of the judge's pen scratching notes breaking the silence. "And the physical discipline," Judge Wilson prompted when she paused. "Can you describe that?" Olivia hesitated, acutely aware of Adam beside her, his body tense with controlled anger. "He used a riding crop," she said finally, "or sometimes a switch for minor infractions. For refusing his other demands, the punishments were worse." "You lying whore," Blackwell snarled, half rising from his chair. "You were treated better than you deserved." "Mr. Blackwell," Judge Wilson's voice cracked like a whip, "one more outburst and I'll have you removed. Sheriff, be ready." Sheriff Denton shifted uncomfortably but nodded. "Miss Jensen, do you have evidence of these beatings?" the judge asked more gently. In answer, Olivia rose and turned slightly, unbuttoning the back of her dress just enough to reveal the upper portion of her shoulders, where several long, thin scars were visible against her skin. The room fell silent again, a different kind of silence now, heavy with shock and anger. "That will be sufficient," Judge Wilson said after a moment. "You may be seated." As she rebuttoned her dress and sat down, Olivia caught a glimpse of Adam's face. His expression was one of such contained fury that it almost frightened her, though she knew it was not directed at her. "Mr. Blackwell, do you deny inflicting these injuries?" the judge asked. Blackwell had recovered his composure. "Correction was sometimes necessary," he said smoothly. "The contract permits reasonable discipline. She was rebellious and difficult from the start." "There is nothing in the law that permits beating an indentured servant to the point of scarring," Judge Wilson replied coldly. "Nor does it permit arbitrary extension of the term for trivial matters." He set aside the documents and looked directly at Blackwell. "I find that you have grossly violated the terms of this indenture contract, Mr. Blackwell. By your actions, you have rendered it null and void." Hope surged in Olivia's chest, but Blackwell was not finished. "This is outrageous," he protested. "I paid good money for her father's debt. I'm entitled to service in return." "You are entitled to 5 years of reasonable service under humane conditions," the judge corrected him. "Not a lifetime of servitude under conditions that amount to slavery, which, I remind you, is illegal in this country." He turned to Olivia. "Miss Jensen, you are hereby released from all obligations under this contract. You are a free woman with all the rights and protections of any citizen." The words washed over Olivia like a cleansing rain. Free. After 3 years of captivity and fear, she was free. Tears blurred her vision as the reality of it sank in. "This isn't over," Blackwell said, his voice low and threatening. "She stole from me not just the contract, but money and valuables. I'll see her prosecuted for theft." "Do you have evidence of this theft?" Judge Wilson asked. "I don't need evidence," Blackwell snapped. She was in my house, had access to my property, and then she ran. What more proof do you need? Considerably more than that, Mr. Blackwell. The judge's tone was dismissive. Unless you can produce specific evidence of theft beyond the document she was entitled to possess, I suggest you abandon this line of accusation. He gathered his papers. This hearing is concluded. Sheriff, Mr. Keller is to be released immediately, all charges dropped. Mr. Blackwell, I advise you to return to your property and put this matter behind you. Blackwell stood, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. You haven't heard the last of this, he said, looking directly at Olivia. Neither of you have. His gaze shifted to Adam. Enjoy your whore, Keller. She comes cheap, just the cost of your reputation in these parts. Adam moved so quickly that Olivia barely saw it. One moment he was seated beside her, the next he had Blackwell by the collar, his other hand raised in a fist. Say that again, he growled. Gentlemen. Judge Wilson's voice cut through the tension. This courtroom behavior ends now. Sheriff, escort Mr. Blackwell out. Sheriff Denton moved forward, separating the two men. Come on, Blackwell, time for you to go. As Blackwell was led out, he looked back once more, his eyes cold with hatred. This isn't over, he repeated. When the door closed behind them, Judge Wilson sighed. He's a dangerous man, Miss Jensen. I suggest you be cautious in the coming days. Men like Blackwell don't accept defeat easily. I understand, Your Honor, Olivia replied. Thank you for your fairness today. I simply applied the law as it was meant to be applied, the judge said, softening slightly. Too often these indenture contracts become tools of exploitation rather than the legitimate business arrangements they are intended to be. He turned to Adam. Mr. Keller, I trust you'll continue to look out for Miss Jensen's welfare until this situation has fully resolved. I will, Your Honor, Adam affirmed, his eyes meeting Olivia's with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. As they left Mr. Harrison's office, Adam offered Olivia his arm. Let's get you back to the ranch, he said. We can talk more freely there. The ride back to the Keller ranch was made in watchful silence, both of them aware that Blackwell and his men might still be in the area. Only when they had passed through the ranch gates, with the main house visible in the distance, did Adam finally speak. You were brave today, he said, glancing over at her. Standing up to him like that, telling your story. I was terrified, Olivia admitted, but having you there, it helped. Adam's expression softened. When they arrested me, my only fear was for your safety. I knew Martha and Frank would get you away, but still. He shook his head. The thought of Blackwell finding you was unbearable. They reached the house to find Martha waiting anxiously on the porch. Her face broke into a smile of relief when she saw them both. Thank the Lord, she exclaimed. Frank told me about the hearing, but I couldn't rest easy until I saw you both with my own eyes. That evening, after a celebratory dinner during which Frank and the other ranch hands raised glasses to Olivia's freedom and Adam's return, Adam asked Olivia to join him for a walk. The sun was setting, painting the western sky in brilliant golds and reds as they strolled toward the small rise that overlooked the ranch. What will you do now? Adam asked as they watched the colors deepen across the horizon. Now that you're truly free to choose. Olivia considered the question, feeling the weight and wonder of it. I'm not sure, she admitted. For so long, all I could think about was escaping. I never allowed myself to plan beyond that. She looked out at the land spread before them, the ranch buildings, the grazing cattle, the distant mountains. But I've come to love it here, the openness, the sense of possibility. Adam turned to face her, his expression serious. You could stay, he said quietly. Not as someone in hiding, not as someone I'm protecting, but as yourself. Olivia Jensen, free woman. The offer hung in the air between them, filled with unspoken meaning. Olivia's heart beat faster as she met his gaze. "And what would I be to you, Adam, if I stayed?" He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "Whatever you want to be," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "A friend, a partner, or—" he hesitated, then seemed to gather his courage, "or someone I could court properly if you were willing. Because these past weeks, Olivia, I've come to care for you in ways I never expected." Joy bubbled up within her, bright and irrepressible. "I've come to care for you too," she whispered. "So much that it frightens me sometimes." "Why does it frighten you?" he asked, reaching out to take her hand. "Because I've learned to be cautious with hope," she explained, "to guard my heart, and because you've already risked so much for me, your safety, your freedom, your reputation. I wouldn't want you to feel obligated." "Olivia," he interrupted gently, "look at me." When she did, he continued, "Nothing I've done was out of obligation. I helped you because it was right, but I fell in love with you because it was inevitable. Your courage, your kindness, your strength after everything you've endured, how could I not love you?" The word love sent a tremor through her. "Love," she echoed, hardly daring to believe. In answer, Adam drew her closer. "I love you," he said simply. "And I'm asking you to stay, not out of gratitude or necessity, but because I want to build a life with you if you'll have me." Olivia felt tears spring to her eyes, but these were tears of joy, not sorrow. "I want that too," she whispered. "I love you, Adam." His kiss was gentle at first, a tentative question that she answered by stepping closer, her hands rising to his shoulders. When they finally drew apart, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky above them. "We should head back," Adam said reluctantly. "It'll be dark soon." As they walked hand in hand toward the welcoming lights of the ranch house, Olivia felt a peace she hadn't known in years. The future stretched before her, no longer a fearful unknown but a path filled with promise. There would be challenges ahead. Blackwell's threats hung over them still, but she would face them with Adam at her side, no longer alone, no longer afraid. In the weeks that followed, Olivia truly began to make the ranch her home. With her freedom legally established, she could move about freely, accompanying Adam into Las Animas for supplies or visiting the neighboring ranches. The story of her escape from Blackwell and her victory in court had spread throughout the territory, earning her both sympathy and respect from most of the community. Adam courted her properly, as he had promised, taking her on picnics by the creek, bringing her wildflowers gathered during his rides across the ranch, reading poetry to her in the evenings. Their love deepened with each passing day, built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared values. Blackwell, true to his nature, did not give up easily. He filed a legal complaint against Adam, claiming trespass and theft of property, but Judge Wilson dismissed it. Then came rumors that he was offering a private bounty for Olivia's capture, though no one in Las Animas would consider accepting such an offer. It was Martha who suggested a solution to the lingering threat. "You know," she said one evening as they sat on the porch after dinner, "a married woman has certain legal protections that a single woman doesn't, and a man thinks twice about crossing another man's wife." Adam and Olivia exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. They had discussed marriage, but had planned to wait until spring, giving their relationship time to grow outside the pressures of Olivia's initial escape. "Martha's right," Adam said finally. "Not that we should marry for protection, but perhaps we shouldn't wait as long as we planned," Olivia finished for him, her heart quickening at the thought. 2 weeks later, on a crisp autumn day with the cottonwoods along the creek turned to gold, Olivia Jensen became Olivia Keller in a simple ceremony at the Las Animas church. She wore a dress of pale blue silk that Adam had ordered from Denver, with wildflowers in her hair instead of a veil. Judge Wilson himself came to officiate, staying afterward for the celebration at the ranch. "You look happy," the judge observed as he watched Olivia dance with her new husband. "It does my heart good to see it." "I am happy," she confirmed, "happier than I ever thought possible." "And Blackwell?" the judge asked, his tone more serious. "Any more trouble from that quarter?" "Not lately," Olivia admitted, "but Adam doesn't think he's given up. Just waiting for an opportunity." "That may be," Wilson acknowledged. "Men like Blackwell have long memories and longer grudges, but you've built a strong community around you here. That counts for a great deal in these parts." As if to prove his point, Frank approached them, touching his hat respectfully. "Begging your pardon, Judge, Mrs. Keller, but I thought you should know we've doubled the watch on the property, just as a precaution. None of Blackwell's men will get within a mile of this place without us knowing." The news was both reassuring and sobering, a reminder that even on this joyful day, the shadow of the past hadn't fully receded. But as Adam came to claim her for another dance, Olivia refused to let fear dim her happiness. This day, this moment, belonged to love, not fear. Later that night, as she and Adam lay together in what was now their shared bedroom, she voiced the thought that had been growing in her mind throughout the day. "I don't want to live in fear of him forever," she said softly. "Always looking over our shoulders, wondering when he might strike." Adam propped himself up on one elbow, studying her face in the moonlight that filtered through the curtains. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking that maybe we need to confront this directly," she replied. "Find a way to end Blackwell's threat once and for all. How do you propose we do that?" Adam asked, stroking her hair back from her face. "I'm not sure yet," she admitted. "But I refuse to let him control our lives through fear, the way he controlled me for 3 years. There must be a way to truly be free of him." Adam's eyes were thoughtful as he considered her words. "Perhaps there is," he said finally. "I've been hearing rumors that Blackwell's business isn't as solid as he pretends, that he's overextended himself, borrowing against future crops that may not materialize. How does that help us?" "A man in financial trouble is vulnerable," Adam explained. "And a man with enemies is doubly so. Blackwell may have power, but he doesn't have friends, not real ones, just people he pays or intimidates." Olivia sat up, intrigued by the direction of his thoughts. "So we find his weakness and use it against him." "Not for revenge," Adam clarified. "I don't want that kind of poison in our lives. But for protection, for peace of mind, yes. I think we need to find a more permanent solution than just waiting and watching." They spent the next several weeks gathering information about Blackwell's affairs. Judge Wilson, who had returned to Denver, sent what public records he could access regarding Blackwell's property and debts. Frank made discreet inquiries among cowboys who had worked briefly for Blackwell before seeking employment elsewhere. And Olivia herself wrote to Mary, the kitchen girl who had helped her escape, sending the letter through a traveling peddler who regularly visited isolated ranches. Mary's response, when it finally came, provided the missing piece. Blackwell was indeed in financial trouble, having borrowed heavily to expand his holdings. But more significantly, he had been falsifying documents related to other indentured servants, extending their contracts illegally, just as he had done with Olivia. "There are 6 others," Olivia read aloud from Mary's letter, her voice shaking with anger and determination. "All women, all being held beyond their legal terms. He keeps them isolated, working in different parts of the property, so they can't communicate or support each other." Adam's expression hardened. "That's slavery, plain and simple, and it's been illegal in this country for years." The next morning, Adam rode to Los Animas to send telegrams, one to Judge Wilson in Denver, another to the federal marshal in Santa Fe. Olivia spent the day alternating between hope and anxiety, wondering if they were doing the right thing, if they would be putting others at risk by challenging Blackwell so directly. When Adam returned that evening, his expression was grim but determined. "It's done," he said. "Wilson is contacting the territorial governor. The marshal will be here within the week to investigate Blackwell's operation. If Mary's information is accurate, and I believe it is, Blackwell will face serious charges." 3 days later, Federal Marshal James Cooper arrived in Las Animas with 2 deputies. After a lengthy discussion with Adam and Olivia at the ranch, during which Olivia shared every detail she could remember about Blackwell's operation, the marshal departed for Blackwell's plantation with a detachment of soldiers from the nearby fort. The waiting was excruciating. Olivia threw herself into ranch work to distract from her worries, helping Martha with preparations for the coming winter and assisting Adam with the ranch accounts. Each day that passed without news increased her anxiety until finally, a week later, a rider approached the ranch. It was Marshal Cooper, looking tired but satisfied. "It's done," he announced as Adam invited him inside. "Blackwell is in custody, charged with multiple counts of false imprisonment and fraud. We found the women, just as your information indicated, all being held illegally, all showing signs of mistreatment." Relief washed over Olivia, bringing unexpected tears. "Are they all right?" "The women, they will be," Cooper assured her. "They're receiving medical attention now, and Judge Wilson is working to invalidate their contracts, just as he did with yours. They'll be free to go where they choose." "And Blackwell?" Adam asked. "What happens to him now?" "He'll stand trial in Denver," Cooper replied. "Given the evidence we've gathered, including testimony from his household staff and the women themselves, I expect he'll be convicted. The penalty for what he's done could be 20 years or more." The news should have brought pure joy, but Olivia found her emotions more complex. 20 years, she murmured. "He would have kept me in servitude longer than he'll serve in prison." "Perhaps," the marshal acknowledged, "but he'll serve his time as a convicted criminal, not as a respected businessman. His reputation is destroyed. His property will likely be seized to pay his debts. And most importantly, he can't hurt anyone else." After the marshal departed, promising to keep them informed of developments in the case, Adam found Olivia standing on the porch, gazing out at the land that had become her home. "Are you all right?" he asked softly, coming to stand beside her. "I think so," she replied. "It's just overwhelming. For so long he was this powerful figure in my mind, someone I could never truly escape. And now he's just a man facing justice for his crimes," Adam finished. "A man who can't hurt you anymore." Olivia turned to face him, reaching up to touch the line of his jaw. "Because of you," she said. "You saved me, Adam, not just from him, but from a life of fear." He shook his head, covering her hand with his own. "You saved yourself, Olivia. You had the courage to run, to seek a better life, to stand up in that courtroom and tell your story. I just offered you a safe place to land. And a home," she added softly, "and love." "Those two," he agreed, drawing her into his arms. As winter settled over the Colorado territory, bringing snow to the mountains and quiet days spent close to the hearth, Olivia found herself fully embracing her new life. News came periodically from Denver. Blackwell's trial had begun, the evidence against him mounting. The women rescued from his plantation were rebuilding their lives, some returning to family, others finding new positions in Denver or Colorado Springs. For Olivia, the greatest joy came in the simple rhythms of ranch life with Adam. The shared meals, the evening conversations by the fire, the work they did side by side to make the ranch prosper. And in the spring, A new joy, the discovery that she was expecting their first child. "A baby," Adam said in wonder when she told him, his hand gentle on her still flat stomach. "Our baby. Are you happy?" she asked, though his radiant expression had already answered the question. "Happier than I ever thought possible," he replied, echoing her own words from their wedding day. They received word of Blackwell's conviction on a warm day in early summer. 25 years in territorial prison for multiple counts of false imprisonment, fraud, and abuse. The threat that had hung over them for so long was finally, truly gone. That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Olivia felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. Her hand rested on the gentle swell of her belly, where their child grew stronger each day. "What are you thinking?" Adam asked, his arm around her shoulders. "I'm thinking about beginnings and endings," she replied. "How my escape from Blackwell led me here to you. How what started as a desperate bid for freedom became the path to the greatest happiness I've ever known." Adam's kiss was tender. "When you ran into Los Animas that day, I had no idea my life was about to change forever. I just saw someone who needed help. And I saw someone willing to help a stranger, even at risk to himself," Olivia said. "That's who you are, Adam Keller. That's why I love you." As darkness fell around them, with the first stars appearing in the sky above, Olivia felt the baby move within her, a gentle flutter like the brush of butterfly wings. A new life, born of love and courage, carrying the promise of a future where freedom was not just a desperate hope but a lived reality. In the years that followed, the Keller ranch prospered. Their first child, a son they named James after Adam's father, was joined 2 years later by a daughter, Eleanor. Olivia, who had once feared she would never know true freedom, found herself surrounded by the family she had created with Adam, building a legacy of love and strength that would endure long after the memory of Edmund Blackwell had faded into history. And on summer evenings, when the air was sweet with the scent of prairie flowers and the distant mountains were painted gold by the setting sun, Adam and Olivia would sit together on their porch, watching their children play in the yard, their hands clasped together in the quiet understanding of two people who had found in each other not just love, but the courage to fight for a better world.